Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the National Park of Speed Road America for round 4 of the ChampCar iRacing series in 2021. And for the first time this year, we are back to back with the same car. Last round at Daytona in the street stock, and we bring that same vehicle to round 4, but a track that is a little bit different to Daytona. No banking here, no bus stops, but still a lot of high-speed straights, a lot of difficult and tricky braking zones in a car that is a little difficult on the slow pedal. So that is a challenge that lies in front of all of our drivers for a 60-minute race coming up very, very shortly here at Road America. And of course, all of our drivers here for the camaraderie, for the competition, but also for some of the prizes being put on offer this season, including our points champion at the end of the year getting a free entry into a ChampCar Endurance Series event, real-world wheel-to-wheel endurance race of their choice for the 2022 season, and then another prize of equal value that's going to be raffled randomly amongst all of our competitors who complete 12 of the 16, a minimum of 12 of the 16 races this season. So anyone who shows up gets their elbow grease on and has a bit of a race is going to be within reach of some of those prizes, even if they're not a sim racing prodigy or a digital expert. Anyone can show up, race, enjoy themselves, and be a little bit closer to winning a great and very, very valuable prize in the ChampCar Endurance Series. So, with all of that said, I'm David Haynes, Michael Derby producing for us on HJBC once again, and Devin Peters joining me. Devin, you are familiar with the street stock, you're familiar with Road America, so how do you think this one is going to go?
I think it's going to be a challenging combination. The street stock always has a very high skill ceiling the way we race it here, but particularly at Road America, where it's so critical to be just perfect on your braking zones, there's going to be a big spread between the guys who get it right every time and the guys who don't. So I'm really looking forward to see the cream of the crop rise to the front at this race today.
Speaking of, in qualifying right now, it's going well for some, and others are locking up some brakes, laying down some smoke, and experiencing the beautiful slip angle that you get with these bias ply tires. That includes championship leader Alex Albert going a little sideways through what Road America calls turn 5, and any sane person would call turn 3. But turn 5 it is. And Alex Albert currently third in the qualifying right now, behind Bradley Daly, behind Mark McCormick. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Devin, but after the first 3 rounds, is Bradley Daly not our championship leader?
I'm still working on pulling up the stats here, but I believe he is. Though certainly he's surrounded by competitors in the championship right now. Alex Albert, Mark McCormick, Simon Foweather, and even Justin Hall, I believe, are in the top 10 in points right now. So some serious contenders out at the front of the field right now.
For sure, you mentioned a big skill ceiling to this car. It is challenging to muscle, requires a bit of patience, both on the brakes, on the steering, and on the throttle. Doesn't react particularly well to being upset. Doesn't react particularly well to the bumps and overheating the tires as well, which get us a weather report on this one, Devin. The track actually looks pretty hot, pretty slick and greasy out there for these cars.
Yeah, despite the overcast conditions right now, this track's been warming up all the way through practice and qualifying. And a little bit of wind out there too, about 10, 50 miles an hour, kind of gusting here and there. Just enough to make this already kind of chaotic car even more of a handful to drive, though I suspect it's probably not getting affected like the Formula One cars were by the wind this weekend.
No. So, with 6 minutes left in qualifying at the moment, Mark McCormick at the top was our winner in the Jetta in round 2. And of course, the points format is designed not to punish anyone who misses a round or two. So it's your 12 best results from the 16 races that count. And that means your best results have got to be pretty good results. So wins, racking them up can be quite important. Mark McCormick has one. And to be looking for another potentially today. It's going well for him in qualifying at the moment. Any surprise packages? Any drivers that are sort of looking in the top half of qualifying that maybe newish to the sim and have made some big leaps and bounds in the last couple of months?
No one that particularly comes to mind. It is a bit surprising to see Christopher Flamian down in 25th place currently. I don't think he's done too many qualifying laps just yet, but he is currently actually in second place in our points. So it is a little surprising to see him that far back. Of course, with our drop week system here, it is a little bit hard to keep track of who's where, right? So he has an average finish of 7th place. Whereas Mark McCormick, for example, who missed 1 week earlier in the season, has an average finish of 2nd. So that'll all kind of have to shake itself out as we get a little deeper into the season. Other names that kind of stick out to me, Chris Nicely is always good for some entertaining paint schemes and entertaining banter in the pits. And he has shown some speed from time to time in this street stock. Though has struggled at times to keep it on the track for the duration of the race. And another name, actually, that might be worth mentioning is Shane Cameron. Cameron currently hasn't set a time, and actually typically hasn't set a time in recent races, though he was our big hard charger of the race last time out. He gained, I believe, 33 spots from the start of the race till the end. Won't have the opportunity to do that today.
You call him the big mover too. He definitely wouldn't object to that being a factual description.
Well, I wasn't going to describe anything other than the street stock myself, but yeah, Shane has come out and made impressive starts from the back of the field here today, and we'll see if he manages to get in for a qualifying lap before the green flag drops today.
Right, an hour is a long time.
Yeah. Anyone you got your eyes on today?
Well, I mean, Andrew Kosick's sitting in 12th at the moment. Mr. Most Mint Racing, I think it's probably fair to call him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not bad. I have to imagine that the street stock drives quite a bit differently than a front-wheel drive Saturn does, whatever particular model their real-world ChampCar Endurance Series machine is.
Yeah, well, jokes aside, I mean, that Saturn's put 14,000 miles on the track in the last 4 years, which is last 8 years, which is better than you can say for many Champ cars that joined the series. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's one to watch out for. And the front end of this qualifying field is surprisingly spread out. Usually Alex Albert's kind of our go-to for the front of the field, but Mark McCormick's kind of unseated him with the blazing 2:33.3. And I wasn't in the session when he set that one, but that has put him well in front of Bradley Daly and Alex Albert, who are both very, very good drivers of the street stock. So Mark McCormick's found something, that's for sure, out there this weekend. This middle of the week.
He's just gone and improved it again for that pole position. I was worried maybe the track was getting away from some of the drivers. We weren't going to see a lot of improvement, but he's just gone and shown that it's absolutely possible. So, yeah, good qualifying time. Very, very dominant, very assertive there as well with that one. I was going to point out Simon Foweather. See him in fourth in the qualifying right now. It's not a surprise from maybe the last couple of rounds this season, but it is. I don't know what he ate at Christmas time or something, but I feel like he's one of the drivers who's really gone forward from previous rounds to previous seasons to this season.
Yeah, I would say that this is his best performance so far in the series. 96 points, currently tied with Justin Hall for third place in the points, and showing up with that North Korea themed delivery, I believe, on the car. The nuclear power plant inside of his street stock might be giving him the edge. And he drives through one of the unique parts of the track here today. Folks that know Road America from the simulator might be surprised to see us running this kink layout, but it is a tradition here in the ChampCar series that we run the kinkless layout that has the bend rather than the kink, and creates a very challenging little section that you can win a lot on, or that you can go wildly off-road in, as some of my teammates demonstrated the last time out, sending their Honda flying through the dirt.
Yeah, tough in these cars because they don't want to really react and respond at those really slow speeds that you go through the chicane of the bend there at. You've got to be very precise through there and follow the correct line. Otherwise, you almost run out of steering lock and find yourself very offline. So that's the challenge there, is more so than any other corner. If you get in, a foot too deep on the braking zone, it's going to cost you a second rather than just a tenth here, a tenth there. As you can very clearly see at the start-finish line, the checkered flag is out. The nuclear-powered Simon Foweather is going to have no more chances to improve his time. There's an idea for Le Mans. They could do the 24 hours with no pit stops if you were nuclear-powered.
Sounds legit to me. Put it in the the three-wheeler, the Nissan.
Oh well, the Delta Wing with four wheels, but
yeah, but you know what I mean. Nuclear powered Delta Wing, I'm in.
Let's get Audi on it. They've tried clean diesel. Now they can do clean nukes.
Seems legit. And we watch this car of Tim Wire going around. Lots of smoke kick up off these cars as you get them settled into the corner, but that's really just the inside front tire kind of picking up off the ground and skating with the real soft suspension setups that they have underneath these things. A fixed setup series for anyone who's wondering. So luckily you don't have to go and pull your hair out trying to figure out how the leaf springs work in the back of this thing. But it does mean that very precise driving style is necessary if you want to be going fast on these things.
Was Kowalczyk precise out of the last corner? Not sure, but he's going to come to the end of a lap that is not going to be an improvement. In fact, a couple tenths shy of his previous lap. Nick Love, again, Mr. Love Racing, is still out on track, but I think he's just about the last before we wrap up qualifying and then shift towards a 60-minute race where they're going to need a pit stop. And that is going to be a bit of a point of contention. These cars wear out the tires a little bit more than they go through the starting fuel as well. So that gives us a big wide pit stop window. We might see drives at halfway. We might see some drives very deep into the race. It's up to all of the drivers individually to decide when they're going to pit. No mandated lap there.
Yeah, no competition cautions in this series.
No, sir. Quiet out on track now for half a minute before they will then grid up for a pace lap. recent updates on iRacing, there's now 2 options for your pace lap here at Road America. I wonder which one we're going to get, Devin.
I'm willing to bet it's whatever the default is there, Haynes.
I think the new default is quite short, just before lining up behind the pace car just out of the last corner, whereas it used to typically be the case that you always had to do a full pace lap at Road America.
If that's the case, Haynes, then we need to get going through this grid real fast. So lead us off there.
We got 2 minutes because your pole sitter is Mark McCormick, sharing the front row with Bradley Daly. Defending champ Alex Albert in 3rd alongside Brian Molitor. Simon Foweather in 5th, Justin Hawley in 6th. Molitor snuck his way up there late in the session as well, by the way. Nick Love in 7th and Chris Knisley in 8th. Carl Guillory in 9th and Sofianek in 10th.
Going a little further down the field, we got Tim Wire in that distinctly honeybee colored car in 11th, with Andrew Kosick in 12th alongside him. Charles Kowalczyk 13th, one of our final qualifiers. 14th, Troy Isidore. 15th, Sean Saputra. Scott Grinnell in 16th. Aaron Thorpe in 17th. David Palermo in 18th. David Warden in 19th. Neil Hancock in 20th. Going into the 20s, we got Keith Carlson, Jared Cubitt, Patrick Pursley, Mark Krueger, Chris Flamian, who didn't end up improving his qualifying time. 26th is Rob Craig, Greg Platt in 27th. Shane Cameron has not taken the track yet, but we might see him yet. And Greg Vandervert, our final car on the track.
29 cars at the track. 1 or 2 question marks there about are all of them taking to the grid. But when they do, as they do, the pace lap is just the short one here involving the final corner. We've got the pace truck today that is not going to have to do much work at all, just through the final corner and then up that interesting and very quick pit road entry here at Road America. That's something for the drivers to consider later on. Carry a lot of speed up there and need to make sure you brake in time for the start of that pit lane speed limit, but no dilly-dallying at the front here. Mark McCormick is go. Bradley Daly not so much. So Albert and Molitor are going to try to grab him on the way into turn 1. A bit more even side by side behind them with Hall and Foweather. Top 4 all single file into the very, very fast turn 1.
Mark kind of caught him sleeping there, but we'll see what happens as these guys file through. We got 1 car off on the front straightaway. The number 7 car, Sean Saputra, upside down after some big contact on the front straightaway. That's a real shame for him.
Can happen sometimes. That concrete wall is right beside the track there, and sometimes a driver will get squeezed into it potentially. And then there's also just typical turn 1, spotting your braking in a pack. Yeah, that is not how you want to start off the race. Basically not even getting to turn 1. That's tough to see, but live, the changes at the front has been Albert catching Bradley Daly sleeping a bit on the race start. Daly is still taking a little while to warm up into this one because I think Foweather and Molitor are keeping the pressure ramped on him while Albert doesn't want to let McCormick get away.
Well, and the tires are uniquely cold at the start of the race, so it could be a factor for Bradley. Maybe he hasn't had quite as many opportunities to practice that cold tire driving as some of the other guys.
I've eaten sponge cake with a more reliable consistency than cold street stock bias ply tires. Low pressures, slightly antiquated construction. They don't respond quite how you'd expect, especially, as you say, when they are cold. Simon Foweather isn't going to leave them cold for long, though, because he is just lighting them up, coming out of that bend for the first time.
And that'll be something to keep your eye on, because these cars do have enough power and certainly enough capacity to drift that they can really kind of burn up the tires if you're not careful, and still make a lot of speed until they don't, until those tires go away. Speaking of, Simon Foweather runs wide there and ends up cutting back across the track, sort of getting a little bit of help from Justin Hall to keep his position there, but that's exactly the sort of thing we're talking about. Oh, and up at the front, Alex Albert right up on the bumper of Mark McCormick as McCormick locks it up into the final corner there.
So from pole, a great jump from McCormick, but is he still going to lead as we get to the line? It looks like Albert is happy to sit bumper to bumper short track style here. Is he starting with the gamesmanship on the fuel saving already? I think he might be. That, of course, is always a big driver in the strategy for these cars. Not just that they burn off the tires, but that at the pit stops, they refuel very, very slowly. And also they need a lot of fuel. So if you can save a bit, you can cut 10 seconds out of your pit stop potentially. That might be what we're seeing at the front here. The fact that Albert didn't go for the pass though, and didn't bump McCormick, means Bradley Daly is still with them in the top 3 after a beautiful more than 4-mile tour of Road America.
Just behind them.
Albert gives him a shot to the bumper. Albert deep in the braking zone into 5. It goes downhill there. It's bumpy, and he's missed his braking zone compared to McCormick. Gone and give him a hit. Albert doesn't want to take the position like that, but it means Daly comes from 3rd to 1st into the lead as the top 2 came together. McCormick's going to be filthy about that one, and I think Alex Albert's probably not going to be proud of himself either.
Yeah, very much like Alex Albert, though, to sort of back out of it and give one away, even if it cost him something a little bit there too. But that means our top 5 is right back together again. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these guys, maybe even Mark McCormick included, playing some games with the fuel consumption here early, because in our last race, that fuel number did become a factor, and McCormick had to, remember, really, really desperately fuel save in the last 3 laps to try and make it an extra one versus what he'd planned for.
Daly making a dog's breakfast of the bend, got in hot, got sideways, lit up the rears on the exit. Now he's going to defend the inside down to Canada corner. Discrimination, there's no Australia corner. I'm going to send a letter asking for one, but they're going to go side by side for the lead, and McCormick looking very strong on the brakes. Daly maybe a little hesitant, lights them up again, very, very, very sideways, and Albert decides that is not a great place coming up the hill across the crest in the kink left-hander there to make a pass. So McCormick back to the lead. Daly looking very, very expressive with his car early on.
And that's something you can definitely do with these cars. And some really, really good shots here at Road America. Really love the camera placements, because it really lets you see who's getting it right and who's getting it wrong. And the guys that are sideways on the corner exit, those are the ones getting it wrong. They're losing their future pace every time they do that kind of thing, even if they're making it work for this lap.
Yeah, they're making withdrawals out of their savings account if they're wearing down the tires and heating them up at this point in the race. Fastest car that lap around with all the shenanigans, Simon Foweather in 5th, as he kept it clean, kept it tidy, and our top 3 scrapped. That bodes well. Top 6 still together.
Just behind them, Nicholas Love had a few spots to make up after qualifying, but he managed to clear both Chris Nicely and Charles Kowalczyk in those opening laps to put himself only a few seconds back. One more little draw.
McCormick struggling with the brakes into 5 as well. No one can get the braking right there, and he boxes out Daly, who might lose out. Albert gets the short track bumpers going again. The oval heritage on these cars, they can go a bit of a bump here and there without sustaining too much damage. It is a spicy meatball at the lead of the race at the moment.
Got to pay attention, though, if you're in this lead pack, because Mark McCormick will take an opportunity like that and drive away. We've seen him do it before, so everyone's got to keep their eyes forward here.
Molitor, as we said, improved late in qualifying to start 4th on the grid, and that's where he runs right now. He's got a great view of the way the top 3 have been battling. He's also had probably a face full of smoke the way Alex Albert's locking them up, and we've seen Bradley Daly lighting them up off some of these corners. If he's playing it calm, playing it safe, he might have a lot of tire left by about the midpoint of the race, when doing an overcut or an undercut could come into the strategy.
Well, and if we see 6 cars glued together like this in 20 minutes, I mean, There's definitely an argument to be made for getting out of there and avoiding some of the backup.
He's going all the way to Canada, and he's going to lose 2 spots there in too deep. Just overdriving the car a little bit, feeling the pressure of the pack racing, and that opens up a bit of a gulf between McCormick and Alex Albert. Brian Molitor, sneaky finds his way up into 3rd place now as well.
I've got a concession for you. We can call the gravel on the outside of Canada Corner Australia, because I don't think we got any beaches open this time of year.
Okay, all right. It goes deep into Canada Corner and sails right off into Bondi Beach.
There you go. But
Albert's going to do the same in turn 1. Oh, I thought he was going to lose it there. He's all on the grass. It's all sideways. Big handfuls of correction there from Albert. And McCormick is doing, as you said, driving away from these guys who are making fools of themselves early.
It's so tricky here, man. I'd like to give them heck for what they're doing, but I'm not sure I could do any better. These guys are working real hard here up the front.
Molitor into 2nd, trying to defend it. Albert squirrely in the brakes, and that is deep. He's overdriven the thing. Now they're going to go 3 wide here with Foe. The Daly backs out as Justin Hall tries to capitalize on the situation, and he will. Hall up to 4th.
And we've been spending a lot of time up at the front because the battle's been so hot, but I assure you folks, it's been this hectic all the way through the field. Just packs of cars getting alongside each other. And something I'll say, I watched or I looked at the timing screens during that qualifying session. I think there were more laps disallowed than there were allowed. Lots of mistakes out there today, which means that consistency could be what wins the day. And certainly Mark McCormick is showing himself to be the class of the field at that right now.
Yeah, a couple of the good drives I think we're seeing so far in this race aren't the flashy ones. They're the driving the car at 95%, making no mistake ones. So Molitor up into 2nd, just picking off the other guys, braking too late, overdriving the car. And then Charles Kowalczyk doing well for himself from 13th on the grid up into 8th. I have to assume that his lap times are looking good, but there's also a couple drivers around him in the mid-pack there that will have overdone it. Right as I say that, Kowalczyk's going to just, build some trenches in Bondi Beach. But it wasn't a mistake. He didn't go too far off the track, and with that, he's picked up a couple positions, I think, from the consistency.
But look at us now, lap number 5, just getting underway. And what's that? About 3 seconds from Mark McCormick back to Brian Molitor. That's going to be tough to overcome if these drivers behind him don't figure something out quick.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race just set by Mike McCormick as he drives away from the rest of the field. He's found his rhythm and his momentum, and he doesn't need to worry what's in his mirrors coming into the braking zones, because the answer is a very, very small Brian Molitor, 3.5 seconds back.
And Alex Albert was getting a little bit racy as he went into turn number 3 there. Tried to get a move up the inside of Molitor. Wasn't able to make it work, though. And behind him, Justin Hall weaving all over the track. I'm not sure exactly what that was all about, but manages to get back in line for the braking zone.
Both of them, all 3 of them, looking like they've just hit the brakes 10 feet too late and just sail past the apex, lock them up, leave a bit of smoke, and not the fastest way through the corner because they all have to wait to pick up the throttle. And now Albert, well, he's making his own beach there at the top of the hill after the Corvette bridge.
Well, and this street stock being an oval car, it's not set up the way you might set up a street stock if you and he's off again, letting both Justin Hall and that nuclear-powered car of Simon Foweather by, and Foweather's making a move up the inside of Hall here. I don't think he'll be able to make it stick as they head around the carousel. But anyways, getting back away from the action there, the street stock here on iRacing is set up to be an an oval car. So even though we've squared up the setup and, tried to make it ride about as straight as possible, when you really load up the suspension on this thing like you do every time you hit the brakes, it tends to squirm around and try and jump away from you. And timing that little wiggle it's got in the braking zone is actually a really critical skill set that these guys have maybe not quite mastered today in this little battle pack that we're seeing here, because lots of inconsistency, which is not very typical of the driving that we've seen from these guys in previous sessions with this car. Another car dropping back there. That looked like Bradley Daly had some sort of issues coming through Canada corner. Looks like he just ran real wide and had to take to the dirt.
Now it's problems for Nick Love. His newly gained position is going to drop away from him as he gets all out of sorts in the final corner and then loses out to Kowalczyk, who picks up another spot, and to Chris Knisley, who's back into 8th. Another position picked up by Charles Kowalczyk just by keeping it on the track. He's now up into 7th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really am surprised to see all the dramas that we're seeing here from folks today. Not typical, certainly, of some of these drivers. Justin Hall, though, is one of those really, really consistent drivers, so props to him, and he's got himself up into 3rd place here, right behind Brian Molitor. Might be the next one to try and make a move on that pink car that has held off so many others that have attacked him so far.
A braking zone that has proved difficult for everyone. Alex Albert, has he gotten that right one lap so far of the 5-6 they've raced? It doesn't matter. Up in front, Hall having a peek to the inside of Molitor. So far unflappable, but it puts both of them on an inopportune line through what would otherwise be a near flat out kink at the top of the hill to hurry downs and towards the carousel. A little bit of the grass for faux weather, but no big issue.
Well, and just behind them, we've had a little bit more drama. It's cleared up now, but Nicholas Love is making up some of those positions that he lost out on after that little drama. Props to him for keeping it over the wall there, but he's making his way back up towards this group. And as we keep watching this racing, Mark McCormick keeps driving further and further away from it.
Sure does. He's got 5 seconds now. Oh, almost the bumper there from Justin Hall on a Molitor. Hall's going to have to go around the outside at Canada corner. And he breaks a fair bit deeper than Molitor. Is it much too deep? Alex Albert locking them up there as well. So much smoke in all of the braking zones. Turn 5 and Canada corner, both places that they are leaving smoke signals in these cars. Dramas for Nick Love.
Yeah, and that looks like Nick Love has gotten it wrong even more than he did last time he had an issue, and just tapped the grass and then tapped that guardrail hard on the outside, and then caught a bump in the sand and stuck it in the tire barrier for good measure. He'll be probably having to take his pit stop early, but luckily he should be in the fuel window, I gotta think, with the way we've got this sort of generously set up.
Troy Isidore's going to pit, but Nick Love isn't. That looked like a pretty hard hit to the Armco, and then the same spot against the tyre barrier, but well, he's still catching Chris Flamian in the draft, so the car might be a monster in the corners, I don't know, but at least in a straight line, apparently there was no aerodynamics on this car to start with, so he hasn't damaged him too bad.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting to see Troy opt for this really early start, though. Maybe he's decided just the traffic that he was running in, because you know what? He was kind of running in that little battle pack around 8th, 9th, 10th place, I want to say, that features currently Chris Knisley, Jason Fianek, and just ahead of them, Charles Kowalczyk. So that little group that had been battling away. And speaking of cars going off track, Chris Knisley is just taking a safari adventure there on the outside of turn number 5 on the exit. They give you all that runoff, but then it goes away really, really quickly. And well, in just the background there, you could see how far off the track he was. But manages to recover it and critically keep it off the wall. these durable street stocks will take a few hits, but not too many.
Well, there's very few drivers having what I would call a clean race, and the drivers who are having a clean race are having a competitive race, it would seem. Thinking McCormick at the lead, and Kowalczyk in 7th, who managed to avoid being taken out by his own team boss when Nick Love got on the grass in the brakes behind him the other lap.
And right back up on the back of Molitor, this little, I don't want to call it a truly train because they're going fast, but they're stacked up behind him for sure.
It's not a train though, because these other guys have been able to get around Molitor and then thrown it off the track once again and just handed him second place back. He's not unpassable. He's just not making the mistakes that these other guys seem to have as they're overdriving it.
Well, and really, really easy enough to do. Something that our viewers might be catching on to is that sometimes these guys will turn into the corner and the car looks like it wants to come completely around on them, and other times they turn in and it damn near oversteers or understeers off the track, and I think a lot of that has to do with just timing that turn in perfectly, because if you wait just a split second too long, that the car will tend to overload the fronts and just not have anything. But if you don't wait long enough, it'll bite you too, because it's still transitioning. It's really, really tricky set of skills that you figure out here. But we are starting to see some bump drafting action there. That's Justin Hall getting a push from Alex Albert.
Yep, turn 5 has been a great place for some general admission action. No doubt. This time everyone keeps it on the road, but I was wondering if Albert and Hall were going to get a bit deep in the brakes there, as Albert was right up behind his fellow driver. Is that a new livery from the other week for Floridian Justin Hall? I feel like there's even more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than I remember.
Yeah, I definitely saw him debut that last week on Thursday at the other Street Stock Series, but he seemed to be, or he seems to have continued to rock that for this week's ChampCar race.
It looks good.
Shots though up close, yeah, from the camera, and gives Fullweather just the slightest little tap. And a few different ways to make lap time in this thing. That drifting, will get you real close, but it also will get you real close to the guy ahead in the braking zone sometimes. Lining up for some busy action here, though. They're too wide at least. Fullweather goes deep on the brakes up the inside of Molitor, and they make contact. Molitor gets pushed wide, and he's going to let 2, maybe even 3 by here as Fullweather finally uses the can opener to get by him.
Not a big hit, but short track style. Molitor's not going to give up against Alex Albert here. I don't think there's too much in that, but certainly there was the pass facilitated by just a little bit of trading body panels.
That's what you like to see. Really, there was contact, but that was a clean bit of contact. And if you're looking up the road, you might see a car off in the distance, but I got bad news for this group. That's actually Sons Putra, who after that early wreck is a lap down. And Mark McCormick, he's even further ahead than that, now 8 seconds clear of the field and making it look easy this week.
Yeah, good to see a lot of these guys getting a chance to really battle door to door with these cars, which is not easy to do, talking about those very long braking distances and all of the concerns with the tire life as well. Fullweather and Hall side by side. Oh, Alex Albert around, gets drilled by Molitor, and Bradley Daly wants to come through and pick up the pieces. That was a bit messy there.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I wonder, pit window being open, it's definitely suboptimal to pit this early, but I wonder if there's some time to be made for one of these guys or a few of these guys if they try and get out of this, because this battle is definitely slowing them down. We do have another taker on the pit lane. That honeybee car of Tim Wire has pit from about 12th place, putting himself a little further back. But certainly a few cars that have opted for the early pit stop here so far today.
We were thinking if he was going to take an early pit stop, and he did a lap ago as well. So there's definitely a few who'll consider it. You got a big tank in these cars, and they can top it up now, and they could get to the end. It's just a matter of, if you stop this early, what kind of tires might you have left on the last lap? That's the thing. And what traffic and track position you might have if you pit early than everyone else. That's the concern that's stopping them right now.
Yeah, you might have rims by the end, the way some of these guys are using these things up. Looking back a little deeper in the field, though, now I've got Christopher Flamian on my screen. He's currently up 13 positions, and just recently overtook Dave Palermo and has his sights set on Chris Nicely just ahead of him. And Nicely looks like he's missed a shift. And so Christopher Flamian is going to go flying by on the outside. Nicely seems to be really trying to stay off the broadcast this week. Every time I point out a battle, he's gone. But anyway, Flamian now, that means I think he's up 14 spots since the start of the race, so a real impressive run for him, and he'll be chasing down our other big gainer so far this race. That's Keith Carlson in the number 51 car, kind of all alone on track right now, but he also has gained 11 spots since the start of the race. And there's been a few other battles worth mentioning. Kyle Guillory's about to make a move on Joseph Fianek for 8th and 9th place, heading down into turn 1, squirming under the brakes, and that inside line is very dirty at this point. And we might almost be in a rain kind of situation here where you want to stay off the racing line, but he's not able to make it work, trying to get around Joseph Fianek here. Two long-time racers in this series, though. I think at least the second season, and probably going on the third for both of them.
Yeah, Fianek might have been with us since season 1. Definitely plenty of ChampCar iRacing series races for him. And at turn 5, I think he's going to cement that one.
Mm-hmm. And these guys showing how, you ought to do it, if you don't mind me saying. It's a fine line between doing that and doing the smoky tire thing that some of the leaders have been doing so far this race.
The pulpit's yours if you want to preach, Devon, but he's gotten a bit of trouble through the kink there where he couldn't quite go flat out. Now Guillory sends it measured down the inside. And then I don't think there's really much passing that can happen at the carousel in these cars unless the other guy gets the grass and goes off. Yeah,
you can set yourself up for that nice run. They got cut short by the bend here. But it's a tough place to make an overtake, that's for sure.
Just looking Daly missed the chicane at the bend entirely, straight lined it, picked up and served the slowdown penalty, and that dropped him back a lot of time. It's a big punishment if you miss the bend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, saw a couple of guys experimenting with that in qualifying just to see how bad it would be, and it is bad. Can confirm, as we see Daly dropping way back from that pack where they were battling earlier. Back on board with Chris Flamian and Chris Nicely. Chris and Chris having their little battle. Nicely's now driven right up to the rear bumper of Christopher Flamian, and we'll be hoping for a good run here off the corner. Try and get him down into turn number 1. And seeing on our stopwatches the fastest lap of the race set, once again by our leader, Mark McCormick, all alone, no draft, 2:34.4.
Showing them how it is done in the street stock, it would seem. For our two Chris's, there's the short track bumper still installed. Just gives him a little tap and then eases off the throttle, and he might be happy, content to just follow Flamian at the moment, I think.
Could be. I mean, if you've got similar pace, there is something to be said for the track position gained from just pitting less time. And we joke about it all the time, but it is really remarkable. I'd say about 80% of Champ Car teams can fill their cars faster than these guys seem to be able to in this street stock.
Not wrong. I think a gallon takes 6-7 seconds or something like that at the fill rate for these cars.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some teams with a good jug that can put a gallon in quicker than that, especially when you've only got to add, 6 gallons, 5 gallons, something like that.
The best secret feature of this car is you put in the 5.5 or the 6 gallons or whatever, and then it stops for a while while they switch to the next tank. I think that's my favorite.
There are a couple of cars that have that simulated. The Kia Optima Pirelli World Challenge car had that too, where you get to the pit stop, you watch the rate of the fuel fill, and it just pauses for a minute and then restarts again if you opt for enough fuel that it requires them to put a second jug in the car. You're absolutely right on that one.
Things are looking a little quiet there, so let's go look at the smoke show happening at front. Justin Hall is under a little bit of pressure from Simon Foweather near the front of the pack here. Both of them were very, very smoky on the way into Canada Corner. And Alex Albert, not wanting to be left out, did the same thing as he actually dives to the pit lane here, so opting for that slightly earlier stop than what some of the other guys might be doing.
Yeah, he's looking for the halfway point of the race. That is interesting. They're going to go side by side for second. And is Hall letting that one go?
Seemed like it.
He might not have a choice in it as he dips just a little bit of the grass. So that is Foweather up into second now. Interesting.
Well, and both of these guys are currently tied in the points. So, this is pretty critical for them. Third place, deciding who's going to be the one who's taken over the lead after tonight's race, presumably because I don't see Giebler and Christopher Flamian is a little bit further back after that lackluster qualifying session.
Believe this, Alex Albert hasn't put any repairs on the car at this pit stop. He's gone the fuel, he's gone the 4 tires, he's waiting on the fuel. In 27 seconds he goes, but he didn't take the opportunity to get that fender popped out.
I'm not sure I can blame him for that. I mean, I don't think lap traffic's going to be a huge factor here today, but these cars are basically bricks anyway, so a little bit of fender damage shouldn't be costing them that much straight line speed. And Lord knows if he gets it fixed, he'll just bend it the next time he tries to pass someone, so it does look pretty bad from our camera angle, though. I don't think that look past the clean from 50 feet, 50 miles per hour, 50 feet rule. I don't think that one would make it.
No, not quite. And they're more of a bathtub than a brick, I think.
Ooh. Has a little bit of excitement there is Mark Krueger, one of our newer drivers in the Doritos themed livery here, has a little moment. Easy enough to do, though, and really does show off just how much of a handful these cars are. I can't wait till the real racing series remember that no downforce, big power, and bad suspension made the best racing.
Yeah, makes him. It puts a lot of it back in the hands of the drivers. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of in the hands of the drivers, Justin Hall and Simon Foweather glued together, about 12 seconds behind Mark McCormick. So really making that RSR team proud as he goes flying away from the field. Not sure anyone will have anything for him today, but it sure seems like the positions from 2nd to 5th, 6th are all up for grabs here.
Daly going for a pit stop. Kyle Guillory likewise. So they've decided that the halfway point of the race is how to do it. Flamian pitting as well. So quite a lot of takers at this and just past the halfway point who are thinking, do you know what I would really, really like right now is not only enough fuel to get to the end, but a new set of tires.
And they might have something there. I mean, so we haven't seen any of our real front end contenders come past. But I will note that Mark McCormick's 235 last time by is about a second and a half off of his pace from the start of the race.
Big mistake in the braking zone at turn 5 from Foa. The gifts Justin Hall that second place. Molitor might have followed him a little bit out there as well.
Yeah, there's almost some time to gain on the exit of turn 5 there. I say almost because if you get it 2 feet wrong, then you lose a lot of time too. Foa, though, his tires might be falling off a cliff. Molitor making a move.
Oh, it does look like he's having a bit of drama. There's been a couple of corners that haven't gone his way there. And yeah, Molitor has really, really caught him, put some pressure on right here.
Well, and you know, the other thing worth understanding about the iRacing simulation here is, you know, they have not modeled yet the flat spotting of the tires. It's on the roadmap. It's something they're working on. But when you lock up the tires, rather than necessarily making a flat spot, they tend to just overheat. And so these guys drifting and locking them up all the time. If you do that too many times in a row, too many corners in a row, all of a sudden you can end up with one corner of the car that just does not want to stick compared to what it was doing before, which is a bit of a unique experience here as Molitor does a nice move up the inside here. And yeah, I think Foweather's just going to have to give him that one. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see Foweather make a move towards the pit lane. And sure enough, he does. Takes the lane this time and says, yeah, those tires, those are no good anymore. Give me new ones.
Not a bad idea. So we've seen quite a couple pit stops. Alex Albert's still ahead of Bradley Daly, who's ahead of Kyle Guillory, who had quite a short stop there actually for Guillory. So he's gambled on the fuel mayhaps.
Yeah. Well, it could be that Alex decided to go one stop longer, you know, or one lap longer on the field, because we have seen it come down to just a few seconds difference deciding how long these races will be. And it's, you know, it's always nicer to have a little extra. See how Foweather compares though. He's fueling up and Alex Albert's coming down the front straight.
We're about to get an indication of what kind of speed Alex Albert's got on those new tires as well, as he's going to come to the line, and it'll be a 2:33.9, which if it had been a clean lap would have been the fastest lap of the race. So he's taken time out of all of those other guys on old tires. He is flying, is Alex Albert, on the 2 laps since he got those new tires.
Yeah. If the other guys hadn't noticed yet, they better keep their eyes peeled, because a few more laps of that and he'll be taking bites out of McCormick's lead, not just Brian Molitor's.
On the new tires, 2.5 seconds faster than Justin Hall, 3.5 seconds faster than Brian Molitor. You've only got to keep that up for 2-3 laps, and suddenly you've pulled 10 seconds out of these guys that you couldn't get unstuck from when you were battling in the pack. So that's why he went early, and why it might favor some others to do it.
Yep. Well, and when you're not dealing with all that traffic around, you know, you're also less inclined to make some of those kind of crazy moves that tend to use up the tires as these guys are racing. So win-win-win if you can get yourself out of the situation. We'll see, though, if anyone starts to react. Not sure who's on the pit wall for any of these guys, but they might be making some Ferrari-esque moves if they're not careful. I guess last weekend it was Verstappen who got a little bit unlucky on the undercut.
So Warden, who hadn't pitted yet, doesn't really get in the way much of Albert, who has the grip to get down the inside there. He's using all of the good off these tires very, very quickly, though. So he's still charging around. He's ended up solidly ahead of Foweather and Daly, who stayed out a bit longer.
Well, and with these pit stops, we're kind of halfway through a cycle here. The battle on track is a stopwatch battle right now. So not a lot of guys close together for position. A lot of guys moving through traffic that's on off strategy relative to them. So really critical to make those overtakes fast at this point.
Pit stop delta looks like about 55 seconds. Alex Albert is a minute 2 behind Mark McCormick at the moment. Critically within that 55 seconds of Hall, Molitor, Kowalczyk, everyone else he was battling who was yet to pit. I think he's done a real big undercut on everyone else for second place.
Yeah. I'm just actually looking at the pit lane deltas, and it looks like did you just say this? Did you just do the same math as me? That a minute on pit lane is about what we can probably expect from most people, and Alex Albert is a minute away from the front of the pack right now.
A little bit. The pit delta is a little bit less than the transit time because the pit exit is like 5 seconds further down the track than the pit entry is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, here, maybe even 10 seconds further down the track, something like that. So if you see the time from pit in cone to pit out cone, the time loss relative to traffic is actually just a little bit less than that because the pit lane is a lane and not just a point on the track.
Makes sense. But still, a few more laps without a response from any of the guys up front, and this could be a real big deal. More of the guys up front, to be clear.
And here's something else to talk about the advantage of those new tyres is Bradley Daly, 8th on the road, has just gone and set the fastest lap of the race. The fastest clean lap of the race, actually, but still. He's going along faster than Mark McCormick right now, when for the first earlier part of the race, there was no way I think Daly was going to match the clean air pace of Mark McCormick, but right now, with those newer tyres, it's seconds a lap difference.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, when Mark McCormick does come out of those pits, he's going to have some real fresh meats on the back of his car. Justin Hall hits the pit lane.
Is that a very patient pit in from Justin Hall? Was he on the brakes a little early? No, it's fine.
It's just a very long unoccupied part of the pit lane here. I've watched some old IMSA races here where they had a minimal speed limit.
Great.
By the scenes of things.
That Molitor actually went around on the pit in.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying Molitor had he had an overtake to do there on Greg Platt.
Speed limit starts. Brian Molitor made a pass on the grass on the pit in. It's quick thinking from Molitor. I like it.
That's good stuff. Love to see it.
Lane here, no pit lane speed limit on these cars as we're going to get a replay of Brian Molitor's very interesting, very entertaining pit in. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Good on him. No pit lane speed limit, of course, in these cars, so you've got to manage that manually all the way down the lane. So far, I don't see anyone who looks like they've picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, but it can happen.
Mm-hmm. Molitor sat there for a long time, though. As I'm hearing from our producer that he might have gotten an unsafe entry for that little excursion into the pit lane, because that was a minute 21 from cone to cone, about right for an extra 20 seconds black flag. Big effects from little moments.
If that was true, because I liked his pit entry.
Oh, I thought it was awesome. We're going to have a talk with those iRacing admins. Jeez. Still, though, time chipping away at the front. Alex Albert 2 seconds faster than Mark McCormick last time by, and McCormick coming around the final bend. Got a couple cars ahead of him. I wonder if he'll make the choice to go this time. Looks like he's opting to stay out. So very confident about that pace and advantage that he seems to have earned through the early part of the race. And we are 40-some minutes in here, 42 minutes in, so and the amount of time you have to benefit from the fresh tires at a certain point, that becomes a concern too. If you take them too late in the race, you're not going to get as much out of it as someone else does. Charles Kowalczyk on the pit lane this time by. He was hanging around that 8th, 9th place before.
Indeed. So the only cars left to make a pit stop are Mark McCormick in the lead, Keith Carlson, who's going to end up in second, Patrick Pursley, and then also Rob Craig, potentially. The key in this, the last lap from McCormick that he just set, 2:34, much better than the 2:35s, 2:36s. Really stopped leading some of the time.
Yeah, he might have overheard us because all of a sudden he found a little bit on that last lap. Fullweather sets the fastest clean lap of the race, 2:34.1 last time by. And a number of guys in that real low 2:34 kind of category right now with those fresh tires on.
Well, rear-ended Neil Hancock, who parked on the racing line on the exit of the corner there. So that's isn't a great lap for McCormick. Not through any fault of his own, not through a mistake in his driving.
That's the risk you take as you start getting into this lap traffic a little bit. But I didn't think he lost too much on that one.
I think we're definitely in the every second counts phase.
I'll give you that. 6.5 laps to go here. Ballpark.
I think it's going to be more. Yeah,
it could be.
It's always
it could be. Yeah, it could go 7 once McCormick's off the track, right? So, but it'll be close.
We're at the line. It could be still 7 more. McCormick's going to round the last corner and stay on track. Gap between himself and Albert now 59.5 seconds.
Well, Keith Carlson's currently up 19 positions on track. Of course, hasn't had his pit stop yet. But a couple other guys that are having a good race. I mentioned Chris Flamian earlier. He has managed to settle out to about 12 positions up the track since the start. And currently sort of in a little bit of a battle, a few seconds back from Troy Isidore ahead of him. And just checking through the rest of the field, Nicholas Love, after those early incidents, looks like he's in 9th place, ahead of Patrick Pursley in 10th. And both of them sort of looking forward towards Kyle Guillory and Bradley Daly. So a couple battles, and it actually looks to me like Daly's making up a little bit of time on Jared Cubitt, who's a lapper ahead of him, as he looks forward towards Justin Hall. So kind of spread things out here in the second half with the pit cycle. But something to be said for the end of this race. We're going to have some guys coming out real close together here.
Absolutely. I'm more confident than ever that it was 7 to go last time.
A thought that occurs to me, Mark's been doing some slower laps. Our last one was at 36. Do you think that Mark is trying for the no stop here tonight? Can be an option, depending on.
It? Really?
Well, sometimes it works out that you have the opportunity here in the ChampCar series. I don't want to say it's impossible.
Well, we'll stick that one on the board, and maybe have to think about it when we come closer towards the white flag or something. I don't. And you look at everyone else who's already made a pit stop has taken 5-6 gallons of fuel.
Yeah.
You think he's going to save 6 gallons of fuel?
Are you sure it's that much? I'm not sure. I can't exactly remember what the fuel to time ratio is here. But I mean, yeah, it would be tough. It would definitely be tough. But then again, Mark McCormick could just have in his head, well, last time he was here leading the race, he pit a little bit early and got put 1 2 few laps of fuel in, and it didn't work out for him. So maybe this time he figures, hey, I'll just make sure that I know how many laps there's going to be when I hit the box. Closest battle on track right now for position is probably Jay Sofianek and Andrew Kosick back in 16th and 17th place. Close enough to give each other smokescreen anyway as they head through turn number 5 this time. Two of them have been pretty close on pace to each other, both in qualifying and in the race. Sofianek had a bit of an incident 2 laps ago, though, that cost him a number of positions. He was racing for 13th place before and kind of ran a little bit wide, got off track, and now has to make up some ground.
Yeah, scruffy lap last time, both of these guys. Kosick was about 4 seconds off his best, and then Sofianek, as you said, lost big old handful of time, 10 seconds, maybe a bit more than that as well. So you'd think Sofianek ought to have the pace to get 16th place back here.
Mm-hmm.
Still watching second. They are a long way apart on track, but not a long way apart on the adjusted strategy here. And I've seen that gap go from a minute 4 to a minute 2 to 59 seconds to 57.5 to about 57 now between McCormick and Albert. McCormick can still do this very, very... It's definitely within his grasp still to be able to do it, but it needs to be a pit stop.
Sofianek has to make a move, dive into the inside, but and gets the position away. But anyway, yeah, I think, like, because we saw Albert running solid 234 like flats almost with fresh tires. You got to think that McCormick's going to come out and do the same thing and just drive around Alex, right? Again, though, no stop, and now we're down to 4 laps to go. I mean, maybe there really is no stop in the future here. Alex Albert gets plenty of room from Sean Sputcher that time by. Blue flag doesn't necessarily mean you have to go exploring, but that's more or less exactly the spot that the Accord was exploring when we brought it here. The driver got very ambitious.
Always tough when your ambition exceeds your talent or adhesion.
The other thing I'll say now is that the good appears to be well and truly gone off of Alex Albert's tires. Ooh, and he locks it up on Canada corner there. We caught that one, luckily. But yeah, he has not had the same differential in pace that he had 5 laps to go. And in fact, the only one that's really still putting in really fast laps at this point in the race is Justin Hall, who's in 4th place and probably hoping to make a move towards Simon Faulkner, who's just a few seconds up the road of him and making some slower laps over the last few, averaging a little bit, maybe half a second slower over the last 2 or 3. So I'll have to see.
It's got right up to Faulkner and then has had an error that cost him a couple seconds. So Kowalczyk sets the fastest lap of the race, and then there's a Hall there enjoying turn 1. Fastest clean lap, said as well, by the way. Alex Albert had one in the 33s where he went off tracking somewhere on a particular lap. Do you see any clean best lap for Alex Albert, by the way?
I do not see one, looking at his race face.
For Alex Albert, and I think he has gone off track on every single one of them.
I think a lot of it is that little cutout on turn number 5 there, because you can cut the corner of it and gain a little bit. and I think he likes to do that pretty much every lap because it's it's easier, it's faster, right? And of course, we race with no incident limits here in the ChampCar iRacing series. Just the golden rule: do unto others and all that. But these guys do take advantage of it depending on where we put them. And McCormick this time, yeah, finally heads to the pit lane, slams on the brake on the way in. So it looks like he'll have 3, maybe 4 laps with fresh tires, and we'll see where this puts him relative to the front of the field. Alex Albert coming out of the bend this time in the dirt, and I think this has been a scruffy one for Alex, so not putting down that the lap that you'd want to put down for someone else's in lap. And then Fullweather another 6 seconds back of Alex, so completely possible that we could see one or the other end up in the pit lane. And McCormick comes to a stop pointed straight out. Looks like the front end of a Formula One grid this time.
So, do you know what McCormick didn't do in that pit stop? Like he's going to rejoin
tires.
Alex Albert. Yeah, there is no new tires on that car for Mark McCormick. It was fuel only with 4 to go, and the gap he has to Alex Albert is adjusting on my screen. Is it 11-ish seconds?
I can almost believe that. He drives past Greg Vandevert, who's gone and drawn something in the grass there. But anyway, Alex Albert in the middle of the straight, heading under the cheese bridge in a few seconds here, and McCormick's already going to be down into turn number 5 there. So that battle for the front looks like McCormick's played a blinder on the strategy there. Goes for the no tires stop. And that must mean that he saved a fair amount of fuel, because these cars, I want to say it's around 2.5 gallons, 3 gallons of fuel, and your tires become free. So presumably that means you have to take less than that at the stop, right? Otherwise, you'd just take the tires.
It was short. That's to say, Albert 27 seconds forward, the 27 seconds of service. Justin Hall 32, probably went an extra gallon there. McCormick 22 seconds. So of this gap between himself and Albert, 5 seconds of it is taking less fuel and not taking tires for McCormick.
Well, so we might have been, we could have been right on the line there too, where if the race goes 1 lap shorter, then you're not taking enough fuel to justify the tires. But if the race goes 1 lap longer, then the extra fuel covers the tires. So I wonder if that was the sort of calculation that was going on there. Because I know that McCormick has previously talked about sort of doing the fuel math and figuring it out at our practice race that we host the week before every single one of these.
I've got to say, if you want to race with us, you can go to forum.champcar.org for the schedule and all the information and the sign-up, etc.
Yeah. Next one's going to be the Jettas at Charlotte, which should be entertaining. The walls being all very nice and close together.
Tough sight lines there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and with those cars, it'll be glued together close. I can assure you, because there's not a lot of pace differential to be had everywhere in that thing. Now, the closest battle that I can see on track right now is Nicholas Love coming up on Kyle Guillory for 7th and 8th place. Love getting a much better run out of Canada corner that time, but has had his fair share of issues on the exit of this corner. Keeps it on the track though this time, and looks like he might have a draft down into turn number 1 here on Kyle Guillory. The two of them have exchanged places a few times, and Guillory probably enjoying his time in the street stock. Probably doesn't feel too much different than a 240SX, except for the 1,000 pounds. But side-by-side action into turn number 1 here, and Nicholas Love kind of making that look like it's going to be easy, though he's not quite gotten past him. Gets a slightly better shift and makes his move into turn number 3 there. Real clean stuff.
These guys have made it this far into the 1 hour race, and they're not gonna throw it away at this point. The tyres are a lot older for Love than Guillory. But I think the spins and the damage in the first half for Love, and then the early pit stop put him quite a bit back further in the field than maybe he should have been.
Next battle that I'm noticing on track is Tim Wire and Troy Isidore in 13th and 14th place. Tim Wire, the crew member of Team Salem there, having a good time, as it looks like the both of them do a drifting approach to the track at this point. Tires more or less gone.
Have Palermo and Kosick, but I'm looking at it. Mark McCormick is about to start the final lap of the race. He's about 20 seconds on the side of this. If he was 20 seconds further up the road, I think there would have been an extra lap in this race. But as it stands, they have waved the white flag. McCormick has a 12-second lead starting the final lap of the race.
And Tim Wire has overtaken Troy Isidore in that battle we were watching a little bit further back. And Brian Molitor and Keith Carlson are actually kind of getting into it for the last place in the top 10. Molitor gets a clean move into the braking zone. As I speak, he hits the grass and wiggles a little, but keeps it pointed the right way. But that'll be one to pay attention to on the way to the line. And Justin Hall and Bradley Daly are getting kind of close together here too. So a few things left to be settled here on the final lap.
Yeah, there you have it. A couple of battles. What it does mean with Hall and Daly potentially battling is Simon Foweather is going to have a clean last lap to maybe bring home another podium.
And that's ahead of Justin Hall in fourth. So the two of them will probably leapfrog up to the front of the points here, with Ian Giebler having informed us that he'll be back after a week's vacation next time by, or next race rather.
I just watched Carlson and Molitor swap-a-rooney there. Up into ninth by using the slipstream on the pit straight, but then the back straight. Well, he's defending underneath the cheese bridge, which is a bridge made out of regular bridge materials. It has a cheese board on it, not a bridge made out of cheese. Molitor, I know. My day is ruined. Molitor is going to send it, absolutely send it down the inside with predictable results. Good driving by Carlson to just cross it back underneath. That is clever driving, not aggressive driving. And Carlson is going to hold on to that ninth for the moment. But your leader, Mark McCormick, has one more corner. And then he just needs to point it up the hill, have enough fuel in the car to get up the hill to the checkered flag, which is waiting for him. He had a good qualifying. He broke away from everyone else. And he is going to grab another win in 2021 ChampCar iRacing Series. Just stayed out of the messy stuff. And that is a win. And good points for Mark McCormick. Albert is going to have to settle for second here at Road America. And Foweather is still looking good for another podium.
And McCormick puts the exclamation point on it with the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race.
It's Carlson and Molitor. Carlson's looking very in control.
Well, Molitor might have something for him yet.
If he doesn't go for the move in the final corner, he's no longer a racing driver, but I just don't think he is close enough.
He's got a bit of a run here.
Oh, okay.
No, that wasn't the move. That wasn't the move.
That one. Don't keep your foot in that one. Oh. Well, Molitor's ahead. Carlson still has a motor somehow. He still has drive, but none of that suspension is right. He's stuck on the wall. A couple guys are going to get around him. Flamian, Thorpe, Carlson. Is he going to get that thing to the line? He can't turn right.
He's trying. He can crash right. He can't turn left. Or he's always turning left. Thorpe gets him. That puts Carlson back in 12th place. Well, that'll be a disappointment for him. Tim Wire comes by well clear of Josephine and Troy Isidore. Isidore running into some issues in the final few corners there. Puts him back to 15th. And a few more finishers on the lead lap. None of them particularly close together. We'll be expecting to see Patrick Pursley as the last one across the line.
I think it was like American Le Mans Series race at Laguna Seca or something, where they the final corner.
Porsche Corvette 2008, 7, something like that.
Well, my heart breaks a little for Keith Carlson there, but we'll get you the results from round 4 of ChampCar iRacing Series, where it is a win for Mark McCormick. He shares the podium with Alex Albert and Simon Foweather. Justin Hall gets 4th, Bradley Daly in 5th, Kowalczyk in 6th, Nick Love in 7th, Kyle Guillory 8th place, Molitor 9th after that last lap, and Flamian, our biggest mover, from 25th to finish in the top 10.
Going a little farther down, we've got Aaron Thorpe, the aforementioned Keith Carlson. Tim Wire, got to be pleased, moving up a fair bit there from his starting position. Jay Safianek in 14th, Troy Isidore 15th, David Palermo in 16th, Andrew Cossack 17th, David Ward in 18th, Mark Krueger 19th, Neil Hancock 20th, Scott Grinnell, followed by Patrick Pursley, the last of our cars on the lead lap, and then a few folks caught out, generally wrecks requiring a tow. It's Greg Vandevert, Sean Saputra, Jared Cubitt, Greg Platt, and Rob Craig, with Chris Nicely having to retire a little bit early from this one. Having completed his 50%, though, he will be in or counting this one towards the draw for the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get 3rd place finisher Simon Foweather joining us again. Another podium, Simon. It was pretty nuts for, I think, between 2nd and 8th in the first half of the race there.
Yeah, the first third of the race was a lot of fun. We were all duking it out, drafting each other, and I apologize if any of the contact was my fault. I'm not sure if it was or not, but if it was, apologies. But that was a lot of fun from start to finish.
Oh, in turn 5 with everyone locking up the brakes there. What made it so hard with this car in that corner?
When the brake point changes when the tire temperature goes up. So and obviously everyone was getting pretty aggressive at that point too. But it was a tricky corner, and it got slower and slower every lap. So it was probably the toughest corner on the circuit. At least it was for me.
And that bend that we get instead of the kink before Canada corner, it's correct for ChampCar, but I don't know if everyone's a fan of it.
No, it's challenging. It doesn't bother me. The kink's not that hard. You just have to feather it. The other one, whatever it's called, you just have to feather it a little bit. So it's not that hard. But this one I think is probably more challenging. So I like it.
Well, it's treated you well today, and you get 3rd place and some good points to go along with it. Any sort of shout outs or closing thoughts from Road America?
I'd like to thank my wife, as usual, and just shout out to a couple of the teams that I'm racing with, hopefully iRacing next month, and hopefully we'll see everyone on the track.
And hopefully we'll see you again for ChampCar iRacing Series at Charlotte.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Simon. Catch you around. And moving another step up the podium, second place man Alex Albert is with Devin Peters again.
Well, Alex, after ups and downs in the first stint there, it looks like things have pretty well worked out for you.
Yeah, had a little bit of trouble with the brakes there early in the race. Just weren't working quite as well as they did in qualifying. Got into the back of a couple people, just couldn't get it slowed down. Wore out the tires because of that, and then just kind of was really all over the place, kind of sloppy. So decided to take that pit stop just short of the halfway point to see if the new tires would help us out, and they did. We were able to get things turned around, start running some fast laps, and undercut the other guys that we were running with there before the stop.
Yeah, and that strategy did really seem to work out for you. We thought for a minute that you might have enough to go up and get Mark McCormick there, but by the end he pulled nearly a 13-second gap on you. What are you going to do for the next race to stop that?
I don't know. Yeah, Mark was really tough. Seemed to have really strong pace, so I'm not even really sure where we're going next, to tell you the truth. So, yeah.
Charlotte with the Jettas.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, Mark did really well in the Jetta at VIR South, so it'll be interesting. I don't know. That's a tough track. Just try to put on a good effort. We weren't too far back. The second half of the race went okay. We had about the same gap at the finish as we did at the midway, so maybe even clawed back a little bit in the second half. So I think just gotta put together a better start to the race and stay in it.
I'm going to go with David Haynes here, just to declare you washed up. But no, I'm just kidding. But great race out there today, buddy, and good job on the strategy. And is there anyone that you'd like to shout out before we sign off?
I just think that this week I'll thank my wife. Couldn't do any of this without her support. So thanks, baby, and thanks to you guys for what you do. And look forward to talking to you guys in Charlotte.
Cheers.
There we go. Another time on the podium for Alex Albert. And our winner, though, at the top step is Mark McCormick. Not for the first time this season either. You might have worked out the fuel for this car now, Mark.
Yeah, I paid a little closer attention to the math this time around.
Talk about maybe how important qualifying was today, because I wouldn't have thought qualifying was super important in these cars, but it looks like a good race start really set up the remainder of the hour.
Yeah, I guess kind of depends on how the start goes. I had Alex, 0.1 behind me because the straights and the draft, so the getting a little separation on the start wasn't that big of a deal. It was more some of the guys behind me ended up making some mistakes and allowed me to get some space, and so I decided to experiment a little bit with the fuel saving and found out some stuff about keeping the car cool, and it's so much easier just to sustainably go fast and make less mistakes when, I don't know, you just don't push it as much.
And what about the differences between here and Daytona? I think a lot more sort of longer loaded corners here than Daytona, where you're on the banking and then you've got the horseshoes in the infield. Carousel here and amongst some of the other curved braking zones are very different.
Carousel's a lot of fun because you get to play with the gas and steer it with the gas like some sort of drift game or something. Obviously, that doesn't help with keeping the tires cool, but on the last lap, you just kind of let her rip a little bit, hang on to it. It's a lot of fun on the right-handers. It is a lot different than Daytona because, I don't know, Daytona just seemed a lot more stiff, like in turn 1 and turn 5, exiting back onto the banking, whereas here, you get a more chance to like set up normally like you would for, a regular road course.
Well, I have to imagine with a couple of wins in the bag, you're going to be eyeing up making sure you show up for a lot of the other races in the remainder of the season. Is this give you confidence, or does it put pressure on you?
I think it's all right. The schedule's spread out enough. I think I can make enough races. I haven't really looked too far into the future, but yeah, hopefully I can get the 12 out of 16 I need and have a shot at the title.
You definitely came out of the blocks well with the Volkswagen Jetta. We're racing that again next round. Are you looking forward to that, or how's that gonna compare changing pace again?
Going from this thing back over to the vacuum cleaner is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I don't think it should be too bad. After Daytona, I wasn't too fond of the street stock, but after this was a lot of fun. So going back to the Jetta is kind of like, oh, let's keep doing street stock.
And there was an all-street stock road racing league. Well, congratulations once again. You stand on the top step of the podium. You take home the maximum points. Who do you want to thank?
Well, you guys for putting all this on. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good opportunity to, get on a real racetrack.
I got to ask, and I don't want to jinx or preempt anything, but if you've had a look at the racetracks all around the US that the ChampCar Endurance Series goes to, which one would you want to spend a prize on?
Well, it'd have to be one of the icons. So Daytona, VIR, Road America, one of the big ones.
Lots of choices for whoever ends up winning the championship prize and the raffled prize. Well, we'll see you again in Charlotte, hopefully, Mark.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
A new season, and again, I don't want to jump the gun or, put the Mickey on anyone, with a lot of races at a lot of interesting tracks still to come, but there's a couple drivers who are really coming to the front in the championship battle.
Yeah, absolutely. The points looking even closer than before on that front, and Mark McCormick taking the lead as we kind of expected he might after that performance today.
That's all from Road America. If you want to race with us, if you want to learn more about ChampCar, whatever, it's forum.champcar.org. The iRacing section is right up the top, and that's where the schedule, the rules are, and all the information about how to race with us, how to sign up, because it is still not too late to join and be with a chance for that lucky draw prize, which is valued up to $1,500 US. You could go and pick and choose a race on the schedule for next season and get wheel to wheel. If you're an existing ChampCar team owner or driver, you'll know how you can spend that, what kind of value it is for you. And if you are a sim racer looking, like all of us at Team Huge Ass, to make the shift across, get some real world wheel to wheel road racing experience, then they could definitely set you up, and it would put you on a good path in that way. We've got every remaining round of the championship live here on HJBC as well, so do subscribe if you want to catch the broadcasts for all of those. But until then, I've been David Haynes, been Devin Peters with me, and Michael Derby producing HJBC. We'll see you next time.